And welcome to the No Balls Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick McDonald, with me co-host Sheldon Kaufman. Today's the New York Knicks Offseason Recap and Preseason Predictions episode. I've made it to my own personal team. I should have got a jersey. I didn't even think about that. I could have the Patrick Ewing jersey on right now, but yeah, we do all 30 teams and we give them their own full-length episode, ultimately ending in a full 30-team prediction this episode, which will be out on opening night, which will be very exciting. Before we get started, Sheldon has Knicks-related trivia, trying to stump me on my own team. We'll see if I can clutch up for the fandom. If not, I'm a phony fraud. So we'll see.
All right, Pat. During the 2020-2021 season, after years away from the playoffs, which seed did the Knicks clinch in that said playoffs with a 41-31 record?
Okay. So I am 90% sure this is 4 because in the second round the Hawks beat the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm pretty sure they were the 1 seed that year. I remember being tuned in that season, but very well aware that our team was very much Mickey Mouse. We were starting Alfred Payton and Reggie Bullock. So um, I'm pretty sure it's the 4 seed because we weren't supposed to lose to Trae Young. I feel like we could have also just been the 5 seed, but that's my answer. We were the 4 seed. I know the next year we were also the 4, or the 2023 season we were the 4 seed.
That is correct, Patrick. The 4 seed, very good, very good. Also in this playoffs, the Wizards.
8 seed.
Wizards were the 8 seed. Ended up ruining Ben Simmons' career. Definitely the one good thing Scott Brooks did in his whole Wizards tenure. Ruined Ben Simmons' career. So, Hack of Ben Simmons was introduced during that playoffs.
Man, after all the Ben Simmons to the Knicks talk this offseason, it comes full circle. Do you know what I just realized? I'm not
What?
sharing the screen.
Oh,
Here we are after the magic of editing, and we have gotten the New York Knicks presentation pulled up. We will go ahead and get started on the 2025 Knicks. They were 51-31 this season, third in the Eastern Conference. Same thing for their expected record, which was 8th in the entire NBA, and their SRS was a 3.59, which was 9th in the NBA. SRS is opponent adjusted net rating. Essentially, how well did you play against your opponents? So all of these are pretty strong numbers. At home, they were 27-14. On the road, they were 24-17. Pre-All-Star break, they were 36-18. Post-All-Star break, they slumped into the playoffs at 15-13. Versus the Eastern Conference, they were 34-18. Versus the West, they were 17-13. In clutch games, they were 19-20 or 19-12 with a plus 3.8 net rating, which was 12th in the NBA. I'll let you go first on what stood out the most to you about these New York Knicks this past season.
yeah, Pat. Definitely the clutch games. When you have the clutch player of the year, it definitely helps, and especially when you have Karl Anthony Towns, who we saw perform pretty clutchly in the playoffs, making some insane shots, especially against the Pistons. That goes to show you how good of a team they were in those clutch scenarios. Also, the post All Star break numbers are kind of glaring at me. Kind of not really mid because they were above 500, but definitely not what it was the pre All Star break. Um, but yeah, I would say that stands up. That stands out to me, and they were kind of even home and away. Like they did pretty good on both sides of the court. Um, and I'm pretty sure in that Pistons series, wasn't it that teams were winning on the road in that series, so they were able to go into Detroit and win some games? Or am I just kind of mistaken?
No, I don't think so. I think they split at home, split against, or they split at home and did win both games in Detroit, I'm pretty sure. And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
lost the game 5 at home and then won the game 6 at home. So yeah, you were basically right.
So they
It
did good
was,
against Detroit though. They on the road in the playoffs. So shows that they
yes.
were a good road team as well. Those are the kinds of things you need to be a third seed in the East, who before injuries was pretty strong.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say injuries was the downfall of this season. I think they were one of the more healthy teams this year.
I meant like injuries in the like to Tatum and
Oh,
Halliburton. Like this was a
yeah.
very strong East. Like top,
Yes,
yeah.
I agree. We were East advocates going into the season. Of course, Philadelphia and Milwaukee kind of self-destructed on themselves to kind of take us out of that. But yeah, we were East advocates. In At the very start of the season, the Knicks really struggled to mesh. They brought in two of their five best players, and Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns. They were trying to work things out. I think they were like 6-5 at this very start of the season, and then they went on a huge run through December all the way through a Lakers game in late February where Jalen Brunson twists his ankle, like high grade ankle sprain. And that was 7 games after Mitchell Robinson had returned. So they didn't really play at full strength for much of the regular season. And like you mentioned, the clutch games, they were 12th in clutch net rating, but 5th in clutch win percentage. And yeah, it was just a pretty okay Knicks season. I would say expectation wise, even before the Towns trade, we thought this was more of like the floor of what this Knicks season was going to look like, and they had like really clean injury luck this season. So this was like kind of concerning that they only finished 51-31, and we'll talk about what that leads into for this offseason. We'll talk about their offense first. 118.5 offensive rating was fifth in the NBA, seventh in preventing turnovers, 19th in offensive rebound percentage, 26th in pace. Not a neck break pace team. In isolation, they were 10th in efficiency, first in pick and roll ball handler efficiency, ninth in roller efficiency. Post up percentage was 18th. Transition efficiency was second. Notables on the frequency stuff, surprisingly a low pick and roll heavy team. Not a lot of isolations, about average amount of isolations, and then like positive post up percentage numbers for this season. What was the key for their offense this season for you? Just watching them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Jalen Brunson was huge for the offense yet again. We saw it last year what he was able to do initiating it, and this year as well. Like really just got the offense going. Also, I feel like Cat was also a really big part of it. This was a team that leaned on both of those guys to like go out there and score, and be pretty efficient every night. As you see, like from the pick and roll ball handler stuff, they weren't a team that were going to run a lot of pick and roll. More pick stuff off the ball, more getting actions for like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges like cutting in to get easy baskets at the rim. Jalen Brunson just doing his thing as well. Like you see the isolation numbers 13th in the NBA. So they, I mean, obviously not one of the top 10 teams running that frequently, but they still were running it a good bit. And something that kind of stands out to me is this is not like a super paced team. I kind of felt like they maybe were pushing it a little faster while watching them. But maybe that's because I watched a good bit of them in the playoffs and everything sped up. But the rebounding percentage stuff is really impressive, especially considering one of your best rebounders was hurt for a majority of the year, and they still were able to do pretty good in that category. With Mitchell Robinson being out, turnover percentage is great stuff. Um, I mean, Jalen Brunson and Cat were getting stuff done, and the role players were doing their job. With OG Anunoby averaging 18, Mikal Bridges 17, Josh Hart 13. And this was a team that ran like their starters most of the time. So like those guys were doing what they did. They were out there for a majority of the time on the court. So a very efficient offense from like mainly the starters as well.
Yeah, I think watching their offense, like you mentioned the pace. They're 26th in pace, but then transition wise, they're 14th in transition frequency. When they had opportunities to run, they would run a good bit. It's just when they get into their half court sets, a lot of their half court sets would take a long time and would be very some of it's methodicalness. I think the key is like seventh in turnover percentage. A lot of that is Brunson handling the ball for a long time to bring the ball up the floor, and then they would get him off the ball very quickly. And then that was like the positive staple of the past couple of years for the Knicks offense. I think just looking at like the pick and roll stuff, because that was kind of key for them. Their most frequent pick and roll handlers were Brunson, McBride, Bridges, and DeLon Wright. Well, that was for 14 games, and campaign, and they were all around a point per possession. The only person who ran a decent chunk of pick and rolls that was like deeply under 1 point per possession was Towns, and there was a good bit of Towns ending up in pick and roll situations, about one a game. So you see how those go. They weren't great, but OG Anunoby was another bright spot in those situations, especially once Brunson went down. They could give him the ball and he would get to the line at a like extremely high rate, and that was key for him in those situations. They were overall just a really great pick and roll offense when they operated in those situations. Um, I think we'll talk a little bit more in the scheme talk about their offense and like the coaching change stuff, because there's a lot to get into on that standpoint. Um, Defensive stuff, a 114.3 defensive rating, ranked 14th in the NBA, 13th in opposing turnover percentage, 12th in defensive rebound percentage. As far as play type defense, they were 12th in isolation defense, 19th in ball handler defense, 17th in roller defense, 11th in post up defense. Transition defense was 13th. I think if you make any key out of their frequency stuff, is they are first in pick and roll ball handler frequency and roller frequency, and they weren't particularly good at defending either of them, and it's because teams knew that their pick and roll defense was a chaotic mess and that you could attack the hell out of it. And some of that is personnel based, some of that is the scheme base, and I'm sure there's a lot to make up there, and teams transitionally did not have to run any isolation against them. I think they were like kind of by far the lowest isolated against team, because why are you going to attack any of their players in isolation? I know people will generally think that Towns and Brunson are like poor isolation defenders, but they are way worse as pick and roll defenders than isolation defenders. Um, so yeah, what stood out for the defense for you?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of it. Like the teams are running lots of pick and roll in this on this defense, and they're not able to stop it uh, very well. And we saw that like tried to be emphasized and like picked on during the playoffs. Um, the post up numbers are good. Teams are getting out in transition as well, which never is good, and they're converting at a pretty good rate. But yeah, I mean, I think obviously the most glaring thing on the chart is the pick and roll stuff, like first and second and ball handler and roller efficiency frequency, and they're not doing a good job at defending it. That's definitely going to hurt you. But if you want to look at a bright spot, like although all that's happening, they still have a 14th ranked defense. Like they're still doing some of the little things right. They're getting a lot of turnovers. They're getting a lot of rebounds on the defensive angle. I mean, we saw a game where the defense won them the game in the playoffs with Mikal Bridges coming over and getting a steal. Like they may not do like the pick and roll stuff very well, but they do a good job of handling every other aspect of the game, and that's why you see them have like a compatible or not a compatible, but like a good enough offense to compete out there every night, or defense, a good enough defense to compete out there every night.
Yeah, they also were missing probably their most, not their most important. I guess they're probably their most important defensive player in Mitchell Robinson last season, for all but 17 games, and that's really big for the defense. I think a lot of it, personnel wise, they had six good players last year, and when they were missing one of them in the lineup, it was really tough because none of their depth pieces were necessarily defensive based. Um, OG Anunoby had to clean up a ton, like way too much until Mitchell Robinson came back. When you want OG Anunoby basically tracking the opposing team's best player like on most occasions. And the Knicks just like really weren't able to do that, and it then put a ton on Mikal Bridges, defensively, it was kind of a chaotic mess. We'll transition kind of into scheme to zero zone defense ran with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson as like obvious defensive weak points, never running zone. It's pretty terrible. And then we'll transition into scheme talk. The pick and roll coverages were like abysmal as a fan. Whenever Jalen Brunson is involved in a screen action, they would completely like ruin their defensive integrity just to make sure he wasn't targeted in the action, like more than they should have. And it would lead to a not an unathletic player, but a player whose defensive strengths are not running 30 feet, making 30 feet closeouts consistently. It led to so many open shooters. And yeah, it was rough. I think we'll talk about how they did in the Celtics series. They were really well game planned in the Celtics series. And like, I don't know if there was a single other time throughout the like last. I think there have been 2 playoff series where the Knicks have been amply game planned, and that's in the Celtics series and then in the 2023 Cleveland series. Other than that, it's just been a chaotic mess. Um, I'll let you get a little bit of time on scheme, Leon Rose, Mike Brown, if you want to. This is like this is the only coaching change we've gone over so far since we haven't done the Suns yet. So this is our first coaching change segment. So if you have more scheme talk, I'll let you start on that first.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see like what Mike Brown's like defensive strategies are is going to like how much is going to be able to help this team. We've already seen like OG Anunoby talk about how it's going to be like a much faster defense. I think they're going to be sending like in those certain situations where you have pick and rolls, maybe another man at that ball handler to really try to um, suppress the ball handler and help out Jalen Brunson in those situations. I think it's going to be a team that we're going to see get a lot more defensive turnovers. I think they're going to be a lot more active with their hands, and maybe a lot more of Karl Anthony Towns playing the 4 position as well. I think with Mitchell Robinson coming back, I think that's a real possibility, and that can definitely help your defense when you have a legitimate shot blocker down there and a defensive anchor in Mitchell Robinson. As far as the offensive stuff goes, I think this team's going to lean in a little bit more to the 3 point shooting, kind of like they did in the playoffs, which Mikal Bridges in a lot of games had did really good at. OG Anunoby was shooting a lot better in the playoffs from 3. Um, yeah, I'm very excited. I think the Mike Brown change is going to be good. Like Tibbs was a good coach, but Mike Brown was also a really good coach. And me and you both questioned like when he got fired. We were a little bit confused. I mean, I think a main thing was like the disagreements between him and De'Aaron Fox, and we saw De'Aaron Fox ended up getting shipped off. So as far as Leon Rose goes, he's gotten a lot of I don't know flack, but there's been a lot of questions about Mikal Bridges uh, during the regular season, a little bit in the postseason. I think he definitely kind of redeemed himself. But the 5 first round picks, Mikal Bridges had 17.6, averaged 17.6 with 3 rebounds and 3 assists. Let me see, where's the. And he shot 35% from 3 point line. It's gonna. I don't know, Pat. I'm sure you'll speak on that situation a little bit more, but I mean, he came up clutch in the playoffs. He did play really, really good defense, and I think he played his role honestly. Like they didn't need him to do much more else than he did because this is an offense last year that was heavily centered around uh, just Cat and Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, I think the key you mentioned there with the offense is Karl Anthony Towns had a career low 3 point attempt rate last season. Not a career low, but it would date back to uh, 2019 uh, for his 3 point attempt rate, and like it's significantly lower. It was at around 28% this season. It had been as high as 45% in his career. So like extremely decreased 3 point attempt rate for Karl Anthony Towns. The defensive or not the defense, but the offensive focus around Brunson and Towns, I don't think is as detrimental as people think it is. It's just the lack of organized offense for literally anybody else was like brutal last season. Like whenever they would attempt to use Mikal Bridges as like a focused offensive player, it would just be like, okay, we'll give you a high pick and roll instead, when that's like never really been his game as a player. Just like looking at his frequency play type wise, uh, he was used as an off-screen player in 5% of plays last season, which is like relatively low for a good player. He was decent operating off-screen plays as well. And I think I can get the assist rate numbers on his 3-point attempts, but I think they were also like at a really low rate compared to his NBA career. And he also was like a terrible above the break 3-point shooter last season. And they rarely schemed him up as as a corner 3-point shooter. It was always as an above the break 3-point shooter, even like as an off the catch mid range shooter. They could consistently get him looks in those type of situations. It was just always way less good looks coming from Mikal Bridges. And I not lied, but Mikal Bridges' 3-point attempt, assisted 3-point attempt rate was a career low since he left Phoenix. Um, or since, or outside of his 2 years in Brooklyn, it was a career low. So just way more difficult 3-point attempts for Bridges, which you wouldn't expect from a player playing with 3 players better than him on his own team. Just ridiculous. And I think the more damning stuff was the defensive scheme last season. Other guys, so obviously Mike Brown is here now. Leon Rose is the general manager. Assistant coaches Mo Cheeks, Rick Brunson, and Daniel Brady. We don't have a ton of time on the draft, so we can talk a little bit more about what we think Mike Brown's scheme will look like with this team. I'll let you go first since I was just
Yeah,
rambling for a
I
second.
think I think I kind of mentioned it when I was talking about the scheme in general, but like defensively, I think it's going to be a lot more active defense. They're definitely going to address the weaknesses. Like this is not a team that's just going to go out there and let Brunson and Towns get fucked every night on the pick and roll. There are definitely going to be some adjustments, whether that be traps, whether that be more of Towns hedging, whether that be more drop defense, whether that be more zone.
Which
I
they never did any of that
Yeah,
last year. It was all just exclusive drop defense.
yeah. I something's definitely gonna have to change. And Mike Brown, like this is the guy that's gonna do it. This guy's gonna get on Towns' ass. Like he's gonna be a guy that pushes them. Um, Not that Thibodeau may not have been doing that, but I think Brown is definitely a guy that's going to go in there and really demand demand and get what he wants from his players. And then offensively, I think they're going to shoot better, shoot a lot more threes, become more of like a and maybe up the pace as well, not only in transition but also in the half court. I mean, Brunson is a guy that can get down to the paint pretty quickly. Like he doesn't need a whole shot clock to do it. Kind of what they did last year. I think this is a team that can maybe find a little success earlier on in the shot clock. Maybe shoot more threes, especially with Mikal Bridges. Find him when he's like wide open. You talked about him having like a lot of difficult shots this year. Maybe finding him early in shot clocks where he has like 2 feet of space and he can just pull it. He could benefit from that for sure. Um, yeah, but I think whatever it is, it's going to be. I don't know, Pat. You can definitely speak to this more, but I do like Mike Brown a little bit more than Tibbs. I feel like this is going to be like it's going to be like this is such a good team, but there feels like there's always something missing. You kind of talked about it. Like the only time that they were game planned was in that Celtics series in 2023. Like the rest of the time, it just seems like they're getting out coached.
Yeah, I think earlier in the season their offense was a little bit more focused. Really, once they went on a run in December through like mid-January, they were really good during that stretch, and their offense was like probably the best in the league during that stretch. Um, yeah, it was very interesting. They were doing a lot more things, having some movement around Karl Anthony Towns when he would catch the ball. I think that's going to be like a staple of the Mike Brown offense. They're going to use Towns offensively. I would hope so, very similarly to how Mike Brown used Demonis Sabonis in Sacramento, except Karl Anthony Towns can shoot the ball, so teams can't like completely ignore Towns like they would with Demonis Sabonis when he has the ball at 17 feet away. Um, and like compared to what Tibbs was doing, like they would use Towns as a driver a ton, and he would get very much over stimulated, I guess, head
Oh,
wise. um, it's a pause moment, but he would get very
that's,
much.
that's not a pause. That's just that's a rough NBA weakness. Gets overstimulated easily.
He does because he will crack
Yeah.
out some excellent passes, and then he will dribble into three guys, knock one guy over on a charge, throw the ball to the other one, and kick the other one in the groin. And
The fans often ask where the foul is.
yeah, and then he'll do that. He gets ahead of himself very quickly, I would say, and that would appear so much more in driving situations. We mentioned it with like Jaylen Brown in the Celtics episode. That might have been the most recent episode, I think. It's been over a week since we recorded it, so I can't remember. But yeah, we talk. It's like a kind of very similar situation where. When you simplify the game for him, it's not that bad, but they didn't do too much of that this past season. Never was really used as a catch and shoot guy. Like he'd take a ton of trail threes. They could have spaced him to the corner way more than they ever did. They didn't really do that. And that was pretty big for him in Minnesota. Yeah, I think they need a lot more of Towns as a 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
And
Hey, sorry, Pat. You made a really good point. That catch and shoot three stuff that should be exploited. Like that's like a fucking cheat code.
yeah, especially
Like
if he's playing the five.
yes, and that's something that he's definitely capable to do. I mean, obviously he's capable of doing that, but especially when you have Mitchell Robinson there, like not a center that's going to be able to play like 30 minutes. Like you're gonna have Cat at that five, so let him stretch the four out and get catch and shoot threes for easy buckets, because that's what they are. They're easy buckets.
Take a guess who the two lowest players in spot up attempts were for the Knicks this season.
Cat and Brunson.
Yes, and it's like by far. Towns was only 17%, Brunson was 10%. In those
Jesus.
situations, Brunson averaged 1.4 points, which was in the 98th percentile, and Karl Anthony Towns was 1.25 points, which was in the 91st percentile. Um,
Crazy. Just left points.
yeah,
Point left.
like And that's even more damning when like the pick and roll duo of the two was not even fully actualized. Like you're not maximizing them off the ball and then you're not maximizing them as a pick and roll duo. What are you maximizing? Their post up scoring. Or their isolation scoring. Like let's get our good players easy baskets, and that's been a key thing that Mike Brown's been talking about this year. I'm really excited to see how he utilizes Towns. If there's any off ball, like there hopefully will be more off ball actions for Bridges and Anunoby to get easy catch and shoot opportunities because there were not enough of those last year, and they started to use OG more as a cutter come late in the season and playoff time. And that was pretty big for the Knicks last year, and I hope that carries over. Um, you ready to move forward to their draft?
Yeah.
And I guess I'll give my quick comment on Leon Rose. We shall see. He's done a good job so far. He can be on trial really quickly, though. We'll see. Um, Draft summary: Mo Diawara was the 51st pick from. I'm pretty sure it's Germany. I could be completely botching this.
I think
Um,
France.
France. France sounds actually. Yeah, France is definitely right. I think he might have played in Germany. Um, But yeah, what did you have anything on Mo?
Um, yeah, like a little bit, a little bit. Um, really good athleticism, 6'9" with a really good wingspan at 7'4" and a good vertical as well. It shows for like really good defensive versatility. Can like guard 2 through 4, which is really important in the NBA. Good help defense as well. Can adds like rim protection, so pretty good. And a good transition finisher, and a team that gets out there a good bit. That's what you need. Guys cutting to the rim for easy dunks and layups. Some of the weaknesses we don't really know like what he'll be able to do as far as like shot creation goes. With like in half court, he wasn't really able to score by himself. And the 3 point shot was a little streaky, like a little hot and cold, 31%. While he was in France, so we'll have to see how that goes. And then definitely strength, 200 pounds. So if you're going to guard those fours in the NBA, you're going to have to be able to bulk up just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he shot 56% from the free throw line in international play. He's a good athlete. He's got size and length. Definitely a development piece. Maybe he ends up becoming a Derrick Jones Jr. type. That's really all I have on him. A lot of Knicks fans are very excited about this guy, which you have to be because he's your only draft pick. But I don't have super high expectations for him. At least he's a forward-sized player. We don't have many of those on our roster. That's pretty much all we have on him, and we're going to move forward as long as you're good with that.
Yeah.
All right. Trades and free agents. Here's more discussion to be had. In free agency, they signed Jordan Clarkson and Malcolm Brogdon to veteran minimum contracts. Gershon Yabusele on a $11 million over 2-year deal. That is the taxpayer mid-level exception. Tosan, oh, man, I said in the Nets episode that I would have to learn how to say his name, and I have not learned how to say his name. Here it is. It's a British name, second British player on the Knicks. Of course, it gives me the pronunciation for his first name. Tawasewo. Tawasewo. There we go.
Very good. Very good.
Oh, that's his first name. Oh my goodness. And Tosan, he's on a 2-way contract. Trey Jemison is on a 2-way contract. Alex Lennon, Garrison Matthews, and Matt Ryan were all given Exhibit 10 contracts, which is a training camp deal. Probably will not make the team. What do we have to say on these trades and free agent acquisitions?
Yeah, I'll let you get the floor on some of the guys. But I do like Gershon Yabusele. Probably my favorite signing out of all these. Guy that got a lot of he over the summer, a year ago with the is it the World Cup? Oh, the Olympics. Sorry, in the Olympics, put on for France, did a really good job there, and then got a got a contract with the Celtics or the 76ers, and he performed pretty well. 11 points per game with 5 rebounds, and he was able to stretch the floor 38% from the 3 point line. Played a career high 27 minutes. This is a guy that like gives you legit like depth off the bench. I really like him from the power forward position or like small forward position. Um, I think he's better than Achua, who played a lot. Like he's definitely better than Achua, and Achua played a lot of kind of like the role where I think Yabusele played is going to play, but I think you can definitely play Yabusele a lot more in that role and kind of go like deep in a bench that Knicks fans haven't seen a bench go deep in a very long time.
Yeah, notably, a lot of people complained about the bench usage for the Knicks. Um, Notice how we didn't mention that because we'll get to Precious Achiuwa, but I'm sorry, Miami Heat, you signed him. I'm sorry. Um, and then all the rookies were like hot garbage whenever they got a chance to play. So like, I don't really hate those. I think if you have to nitpick anything, like the Lon Wright never got a chance to play, and Landry Shamet like was in and out of the regular season rotation a lot, which is just kind of weird. You know, those are the things you could nitpick, but yeah, we'll talk about Achua more. Talking about this bench depth though, Malcolm Brogdon, we'll skip him for now. You mentioned Gershon. Gershon, I think, is a perfectly fine guy to bring in. Is it exactly what we needed from the four position? No, but getting a floor spacer as somebody who can play the four, play the five, even if there is sometimes lineup limitations with him playing in each of those spots, is perfectly fine and what you would hope to get with your mid-level exception. I think that's a good acquisition for the Knicks. Malcolm Brogdon is a pretty decent player, hopefully still. It's been a rough go of things for him injury wise the past couple seasons. Um, but 2 years ago he was decent with the seven or not the 76ers. Geez, that's where Gershon was. Um, 2 years ago he was pretty decent, I believe, with Portland. In the minutes he played, he shot 40% from three. Even the year before in Boston, he shot 44%, and those are on like pretty high volume. If he returns to those production levels, that's pretty good. But I'll just quickly read off his games played uh, since the bubble: 56, or that is also in a semi-shortened season. We'll just go 36, 67, 39, and 24. Not a very healthy guy, and as somebody who is aware of the Knicks cap situation, they can only have 13 standard contracts to start the year, and having one of those be somebody who's already not regularly available is kind of a tough ask for me. And then Jordan Clarkson, they signed to a minimum. And, the Hoopers will tell you Jordan Clarkson's awesome and averages 15 points a game. The people who are not the Hooper pilled will tell you that Jordan Clarkson made the Jazz offense worse each of the last two seasons. Um, so that's pretty awesome. The team that was actively like trying to trade all of their good players, he was making them worse. Yeah, and furthermore, his career 3-point percentage is 34%.
Mm.
He hit uh, a Utah high 36% this past season. He shot 30, 32, 34, and 29% the years preceding this. Like this, I'm really confused on what this acquisition is, because the last thing the Knicks needed was more isolation bucket getting. They already have four guys who averaged 18 points per game last season. They didn't need more shot creation. They needed a head coach that can like make the shot creation not necessary. Um, Now we're just going to have Jordan Clarkson playing bench minutes with Jalen Brunson standing in the corner watching Jordan Clarkson take the most ridiculous garbage shot of all time. This is a terrible minimum signing, and we wasted a roster spot.
Is it any different? Is this any different than campaign out there chucking up threes from the logo?
Yes, because Campaign's actually good at chucking up threes.
That is
Um,
true. That is true.
the common thought was, oh, well, it's better than Campaign, and like, I really don't think it is. Like, Campaign at least hits threes,
Yeah,
and doesn't turn the ball over that frequently. Jordan Clarkson doesn't hit threes and doesn't make shots in general.
that's a rough combo.
That's a really rough combo, and he's also garbage defensively. Like, they're both bad defensively. And Clarkson can't play point guard for you. Campaign can play point guard for you.
Yeah, true.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm the only Knicks fan who's critical of that move. We'll move to their losses. We mentioned Campaign, who's okay. Precious Achiuwa goes to the Heat. Campaign's unsigned. Marshall Beauchamp is unsigned. PJ Tucker's in Cancun. DeLon Wright is on Indiana, and Antoine Watson is currently unsigned. Any of these stand out to you as notable?
Not notable. I mean, I kind of talked about like Achua, like really lost his role as the year went on. I feel like didn't really see him much near the end of the year in the playoffs. PJ Tucker was the vet guy, right? The glue guy in the locker room. Wasn't really a guy that's out there like actually doing anything, scoring, passing, none of that. DeLon Wright, we didn't really get to see a lot of leadway with him, so or not even leadway, but just playing time in general. So not it's okay. It's okay. And then campaign, like we said, like yeah, he played point guard for you. He could shoot. for sure. Not really there defensively, but like not really a big part of the offense as well. Not really a big piece of the rotation. Guys that are good losing. You have the main five guys plus some like good additions off the for the bench. Uh, you're chilling. You're chilling.
Yeah, Campaign was the eighth man on the playoff team last year, and he's currently not on an NBA team.
Yeah.
Tells you a lot about the depth of the team last year. The Campaign would have one like really good game a week, and then he'd just be like terrible the other three games that week. Um, so I would be like, oh well, Jalen Brunson's not playing this game. We'll hope for the one good Campaign game this week. And that happened a couple times in the playoffs. I think game one against Detroit Campaign was pretty
Yeah.
good, and
It's
uh,
crazy.
later in the playoffs, we were like, yeah, Campaign cannot be on the floor. Like, this is terrible. DeLon Wright, kind of for no reason, never got on the floor, like, even until the playoffs. Um, Especially because, Campaign is fine, but, not somebody who needs to be a mainstay in the rotation. And then Precious is Precious. He played, I guess, if that makes him notable. Um, but we'll talk more about Big Precious in the lineup data section. I don't think any of these are very notable other than that, besides the guys who actually played. Here's their Spotrac numbers. As it currently stands, I believe that does not have Malcolm Brogdon official yet, because in order to keep Brogdon and or Shamit or one of their Exhibit 10 guys, they have to move off of a player on the roster to do so, which makes, that Jordan Clarkson signing so much worse, because I'd be great if he wasn't on the team right now. But yeah, it's looking like they're going to move off of one of Tyler Kolek and Pacom Dadiet. Um, Dadiet was a first rounder literally a year ago, and Tyler Kolek, was a guy who a lot of people thought should have gone in the first round a year ago. We'll see what they end up doing there. Honestly, I would rather we just not have Jordan Clarkson on our team and just keep both of those guys. But I understand moving Tyler Kolek because uh, he's 24 years old, and his peak on this team is playing 12 minutes a game when Jalen Brunson's not on the floor. There's just no upside to keeping him outside of those 12 minutes a game. And then in Dadiet's case, he's 6'8", has signs of a jump shot, and he's 20 years old. I think there's an obvious choice here, and Leon Rose, like I'm saying, you're on trial here, man. Yeah, we'll move forward. Uh, as you know, they're up against the aprons. I think they're currently slightly under the second apron as it currently stands. These are definitely not up to date after the offseason. This was going into the offseason. They like literally can only sign a rookie contract right now, which is why people are expecting Mo Diarra to be on the active roster. But that's how they would fill out their 14th man for the season. As of right now, they can only have 13 rostered players. We made it to the lineup data section. You ready?
Yeah.
So one key getting into looking at their lineup data is Brunson had a negative on-off of almost a -5. That comes with him being a positive on offense, a plus 2.8, which is really good for a team that was fifth in offensive rating. I think when Brunson was on the floor, they were the best offense in the league. Um, I think we can fact check that really quick. I think Cleveland was the top offense. But yeah, that is like really jarring for a player to make you the best offense in the league and then make the team worse by him playing. Going into why that was the case is the Knicks' awesome backup center situation at the start of the year. Like I said, they had 7 good players on their roster, and Mitchell Robinson was one of them and only played 17 games. Okay, they would have been just behind the Caps for being like the best offense in the league. When Precious Achiuwa was at the 5 with Jalen Brunson on the floor, they were minus 6.61. With Jericho Sims at the 5 and Jalen Brunson on the floor, they were plus 6.66. Take a guess which one Leon Rose traded.
Sims, Jericho Sims, of course.
Yes. And take a guess which one of them Tom Thibodeau was insistent on playing at the 5.
Jericho Sims.
No. When they were both healthy, he was insistent on playing just Precious and not playing Jericho Sims
Yeah.
in a team that is heavy in drops schemes. Awesome. They also would love to hedge with Jericho Sims because he's like an insane athlete and he can do those things. Yeah, they were much better with Sims in those situations. One criticism I would have is Brunson and Deuce like didn't play that much together. I understand they're both small, but with Cat at the 5, so like this is without like rim protection behind them. Brunson Deuce being on the floor with Campaign was a plus 17.6, and with Brunson it was a plus 18, and this was in like 200 minutes each, I think. And that's like really low for the Knicks, who played 8 players a ton of their minutes this past season. So yeah, they never really dipped into that, and the results were great. I think with Brunson on the floor, they were like by far they would have been like a 128 offensive rating, and then that would have been like a 109 defensive rating. And then with Payne, they were like still a really good offense, but they had like a ridiculous defensive rating with Campaign on the floor, sharing with Deuce and Cat at the 5. Yeah, so they just could have tapped into that a little bit more. They didn't really do it. And then other than that, Cat obviously would have a great on-off signal, as you're seeing. Like he's not playing with Precious Achua and Jericho Sims. At the bottom, you see when Sims and Cat shared the floor, it was only for 8 minutes. When Sims was on the floor without Karl-Anthony Towns, they were a 0.4. Precious Achua was a minus 1.82 without Cat, and then with Cat and Precious on the floor, they were still a minus, and that was, I think, the only player on the roster that they were a minus in the Cat minutes sharing the floor with Karl-Anthony Towns. Josh Hart was a plus 8.4 with Cat. Without Cat, he was a minus 4.7. If you think about the makeup of rosters, that means he's playing with a backup center. Josh Hart, not a shooter. Makes a ton of sense why that would happen. Jalen Brunson was a plus 6.86 with Karl-Anthony Towns. Without Karl-Anthony Towns, he was a minus 1.82. Deuce McBride on the floor was a plus 8.35. With Cat, without was a plus 4.44. OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, 6.7 for OG with Cat. Without Cat, a 3.06. Mikal on with Cat was a 7.45. Without was a 7, or was it 2.25. As you can see, the defensive players in OG, Deuce, and Mikal Bridges are a little more inelastic because they're important and they're usually not being platoon subbed like Brunson. Hart would get subbed platoon wise with Brunson, and it would lead to a ton of lineups with Precious Achua at the 5 and Hart at the 4. Those were awesome. I can pull up the numbers on those because those were great. But yeah, what do you make of this lineup data?
Yeah. It helps when you have a four spacer out there. And it's kind of evident with the Cat numbers being so high for those kind of, I guess, just like uh, the guys that aren't the main guys with Hart, Deuce, OG, and Mikhail, like all benefiting from Cat being on the court, and um, Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, or Hart mainly, like JB only being negative 1.82 isn't anything like too detrimental, I don't think. So Cat definitely helps. I think the biggest thing is that Brunson's defense is such a big negative. It's crazy. I mean, obviously he helps you out so much on the offense, but it definitely does hurt a little bit when he's out there, not giving you anything barely on defense. Um, but yeah,
It's especially bad too when like scheme wise it's not built at all to hide the deficiencies that Towns and Brunson have. Um, Interestingly enough, last year, like Karl-Anthony Towns' rebounding was one of like the better defensive traits that the Knicks would have this past year. Like on a given basis, he would secure defensive rebounds. I think at one point he was leading the league in defensive rebound percentage. I don't think that stuck throughout the year, but yeah, that was something that was the case. Um, Other than that, though, I've attained the Josh Hart and Precious Achua minutes together. They were a minus 3.39 when that pairing played together. Most played with them was Brunson and Bridges. If you take Karl Anthony Towns off the floor, so Josh Hart, Precious Achua, the nightmare defensive duo, and you take Towns off the floor, then they are a -6. If you combine that with Jalen Brunson, so it's like Jalen Brunson, and then your front court play is a power forward who can't move, and Josh Hart. They are -12, so it's like really hard to do. And the offense is also just not good in those lineups. So yeah, that was a nightmare bench duo for the Knicks for like half of the season. Um, yeah, you ready to move forward?
Yeah.
All right, we're moving forward to the lineups. This is what I've came away with. Brunson, Deuce McBride, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns. I think the most notable thing for most people here is that I don't want to start Mitchell Robinson. I think the key is injury history is not good for Mitchell Robinson. I think even when you go back to his previous, seasons in the league, he wasn't playing a ton of minutes. So using him as a bench player and having too big as an option, because I mean, we looked at it last year. They never ran too big in the regular season. Them pulling it out in the playoffs was like the first time they'd ever done it. Um, his only healthy season, he played 26 minutes a game. Like, he's not going to be a full, 30-minute a game starter. So I don't think starting Mitchell Robinson's the move. I already talked about the deuce minutes with Towns at the 5 and another small guard out there. They were awesome. Um, I think that's pretty important. And the key of that, too, is it allows OG Anunoby to not be the best help defender and perimeter defender at all times. Deuce McBride is going to be able to take smaller guard matchups, even better than Mikal Bridges was. And I think that's going to be great for them. It's looking like Mitchell Robinson's going to start for the season, but I would like it. I'm holding out hope until it's officially announced that Deuce McBride is going to be the starter. What do you have to say on this?
Yeah, I really like this lineup, Pat. For a lot of the reasons you mentioned, I think it can. Hopefully, Mike Brown's able to scheme it in a way where he can kind of hide Jalen Brown's or oh Jalen Brunson, Jalen Brunson's deficiencies on defense, with Deuce being able to pick up some guard matchups, Mikal being able to guard the more traditional small forwards, and we all know how good OG Anunoby is as a defender, and I think you kind of have like a a good bench lineup, or not a good bench lineup, but you have good guys that come off the bench in those situations. Josh Hart, for example, we know how good he is. Just a real good spark plug. Like having him off the bench, like might be a candidate for six man of the year. Yabusele, I think, will be really good, and I really like what you said about Mitchell Robinson not starting. I think all your reasons were very, very valid. And I kind of mentioned it. This is not a guy who's going to go out there and play 25, 30 minutes a night. It's just not doable, especially if you want him in the playoffs where he's so effective. You're going to have him coming off the bench. I think this is good. You definitely see some scenarios where Mitchell's playing the 5 and then Cat slides to the 4, but I think that's in more of a mid-game situation. I don't think this is like the starting line. I don't think that'd be a starting lineup situation.
I think it for sure can be a closing lineup situation. I think more importantly too, like there's absolutely no way Mitchell Robinson should be playing back-to-back games. I think they are well aware of that. I think, I don't put two-way contracts on this list, but Trey Jemison might be playing on every back-to-back, just in the rotation even. There's a good chance he's better than Ariel Hukporti. Um, I think that's pretty key in that situation. having the double big option is going to be big, but I don't think it should be their main thing that they threw out there from the very start. I think it also just kind of helps with their bench continuity a little bit. Obviously, they think Clarkson and Brogdon are going to be key pieces of the bench. I honestly prefer Hart and Shamit. But yeah, and they have options to go to. And I think that's big. Last year they had Tyler Kolek and um, Cameron Payne, who were like kind of like the same player. Like when things are going good, it's the same player. Dadier had no chance to see the floor with Tom Thibodeau. Like he's a French 19-year-old. Tom Thibodeau doesn't never gonna play that guy. And then yeah, Precious Achua was not a real difference maker. I think they have guys who can be effective in certain situations now. Um, and that's the real key to this. They did not have that before. Like I cannot stress this enough. They had 7 good players last year, and then they had to just makeshift the rest of everything. Um, Other than that, is there any of these rotational pieces that you want to touch on?
Hopefully Kola gets a little bit of leadway. I liked what he brought to the table, like in the draft process. I think he could be like a good playmaker from that point guard position. So didn't get to see a lot of him last year. Hopefully we get to see at least a little bit of him this year.
I'm rooting for Tyler Kolek, but I'm hoping that he will be on a different team. Just because then we keep Pacome Dadiet, who at least has the upside of like, if he develops, he's a rotational player for the Knicks. Because if Tyler Kolek develops, he can only play 12 minutes a game. It's
Yeah.
not what you like to see. And then there is the argument that Deuce McBride is also 6'1", and I'm arguing to start him. Deuce McBride's like so much better of an athlete, so much better of a defensive player,
And a better
and
shooter.
like is a shooting guard too. Like not a real on ball player, even though he was decent as a pick and roll operator. He's also like an excellent shooter. So yeah, this is I think the best version of the lineup. I don't think it's what they're ending up going to do. I think they're going to start Robinson. I think it's also worth being said. Once Mitchell Robinson came back, they were like a top like 8 defense. I think they were like 8th in defensive ratings, and Mitchell Robinson came back. That also did coincide with Brunson's injury for like a large percentage of that, but uh, so there's 2 different forces at play there. Like the offense was like pretty bad during that stretch, and then the defense was a lot better than it had been throughout the year. Core questions, we've made it. Do we think the Knicks improved this offseason?
Yes, I do think they improved, and I think some of it goes through like the coaching stuff, but I also think they like actually have like a bench now, which is something they haven't had the past couple of years. So I really like what they did this offseason. Brought in a couple guys, took some risks. Definitely something you have to do after the season they had last year.
Yeah, I think they did as well. I remember one thing I did want to say on the last slide. When they use Mitchell Robinson too, like a lot of why he was so effective is because it's in low volume. We saw as the Pacer series came on when they increased the volume of Mitchell Robinson, it wasn't as shiny. So I think that's another part of it. I would say that they did improve. I think if you get like a resemblance of a real Malcolm Brogdon, that's like actually good for a bench player. Um, it's gonna be low like minutes, like I said with Tyler Kolek's situation. I think Brogdon, he might play 15 minutes a game, but if he's playing 15 minutes a game, that's pretty good for the team. Yabusele, I'm still not sure about him in a playoff situation, but in the regular season, like he's going to be pretty great for them. He's going to give them more lineups that can have like real spacing. As a front court player who can shoot the ball, he at least will bring physicality on defense. I think it's like a pretty like good signing and for sure the best signing this offseason. Jordan Clarkson stinks, but he's on the team. I do like, maybe the shot gets better this year playing with better players than him. I'll just say the shot wasn't good even when he did have good teammates around him in Utah, and the defense and the terrible shot selection were also a thing back then. But maybe there is some step forward this season. Well, I think that'll ultimately depend on how big of a role he ends up getting. And then, they lost Precious Achua in campaign. Like those were the players that they had that they lost. I would have loved. I think I'm the only Knicks fan who realizes that the Jericho Sims minutes were so much better than the Precious Achua minutes. They were like a 121 offensive rating and a 113 defensive rating, with Sims as the backup five next to Brunson, and it was like a 113 offensive rating and a 121 defensive rating with Precious Achua as the backup five and Brunson on the floor. Just absolutely terrible. I don't know how they rationalized that trade that they made. It was crazy. Do we think they set themselves up better for the future this offseason?
I'm gonna say yeah again because I feel like going in. I feel like this is a better team than last season because they actually have like a good bench. Like I said, I think that's huge for them, and I think like that allows them to compete. And I mean, they didn't really splash in the draft picks or make any crazy trades or additions, but I think they did the necessary things to set themselves up for the future. So I'll go ahead and say yeah.
They fired Tom Thibodeau, who literally showed one adjustment throughout his Knicks career in the playoffs against Boston, which was, he finally did switching against an NBA team, and they beat a team that was heavily favored against them. And defended really well that series. Like even Brunson and Towns, for how bad they are defensively, I think they're like very switchable for how bad they are defensively. Like Brunson has the strength and the foot speed that really allows him to like stay with bigger defenders. I think he's actually best at defending like big shooting guards and small forwards. Not big small forwards, but small forwards. And then Karl-Anthony Towns, I think most of his issues defensively are like mental issues. Like he just does dumb stuff very consistently. So I think just the fact that we have somebody who will like put a new pair of eyes on that 2-0 defensively does set the team up better for the future. But roster wise, not really. Like we did get Yabu, who like might be a rotational player, but um, I wouldn't say like it's overwhelming. I would say if you consider the coaching, sure. But otherwise, I think it's pretty net neutral for the future. They also did do a Bridges extension that we never really talked about. It was quite pricey. It was like 37 a year. Which is kind of crazy. It was $6 million less than what Brunson got. I'll say this: if Mikal Bridges plays up to his trade value that we traded for him, then it's a perfectly fine contract. If he plays like past year Mikal Bridges, we might have overpaid like $8 million a year, and it's like whatever.
Yeah.
It does matter though if you're a team fighting, being in the aprons and being in the luxury tax every year. That does matter. So that could, I would say, slightly negative in setting themselves up for the future. But the window is now. So offensive MVP for them, I'm going with Jalen Brunson because I'm hoping. I mean, we saw last season, like when he was on the floor, they were pretty much the best offense in the league. And then, that was really big for them. And clutch player of the year, hitting clutch shots. Despite them not being good in the clutch, they still managed the fifth best clutch record in the league because he's hitting a ton of shots, even if the team isn't great in the clutch. I'm going to go with him. I'll let you get the floor.
Yeah, I want to go Cat, but I think Jalen Brunson's going to be it again. Just a lot of oh, excuse me, a lot of offense. A lot of the offense just initiates through him for the most part. Guy that's a good playmaker, just like we've been talking about a lot. Clutch, a guy that you're going to go to when you need a bucket, and a guy that's going to score a lot of points. So yeah, let's set up a lot of plays as well. I'll go with Jalen Brunson for my offensive MVP.
I think picking Cat's valid if he's playing the five. It's also just projecting like he's probably going to play the four like a lot this season. So for that reason, I think it's Brunson. Defensive MVP, he's like undoubtedly OG Anunoby. He's like an all defensive level player. Will have you. He'll defend anybody out there. He'll defend Embiid. He'll defend Tyrese Halliburton, uh, Jason Tatum. Like he'll defend anyone. And that's awesome. And he's also like really good defensive playmaker. He's always towards the top of the league in steals and deflections, and he's a good rim protector for really anybody. Yeah, OG Anunoby's my pick.
Yeah, I agree. Always, as you said, he can guard bigs, he can guard big power forwards, big small forwards. He also can do good on guards as well. Just a lockdown defender. So I'll go with him as well.
X Factor.
I'm gonna go Mikal Bridges. I think we kind of talked about it a little bit. Like if he plays to what the contract he's getting, to the 5 first-round picks he got traded for, this is a scary ass team with a legit shooting threat as your 3 option. Like not only do you have Cat and um, not only do you have Cat and Joe and Brunson attacking you, but you also have a guy Mikal Bridges who's capable of shooting over average from the 3 point line and also killing you on the inside as well. So I think if Mikal Bridges can really step up the offensive game, I think that'll be huge for the Knicks.
I'm going Mikal Bridges, but for the defensive end, um, we acquired this guy to be better than OG Anunoby just in general. But like as a perimeter defender, he like Mikal needed to be good last season, and he wasn't like on a per possession basis. He wasn't like a good perimeter defender. He would still have defensive playmaking moments, um, occasionally as a help defender. But if he can go back to just being a good perimeter defender, he doesn't have to be elite anymore. Just be a good perimeter defender and hit easy shots. Hopefully, they will have more easy shots made for him rather than um, saying, "Hey, go play like Jalen Brunson," because that's the only offense we have installed. Um, if that can be done a little bit more from Mikal, I would love to see that. If he's as good of a player as OG Anunoby, which was the sentiment that a lot of people were hoping for at the time of the trade, then this like should be the runaway favorite for the East. But if we get the past 3 years of Mikal Bridges, it can still be an East favorite, but it's like not a super convincing margin, I wouldn't say. So I agree. Mikal Bridges is their X factor. Other than that, do we have any closing comments for this season?
I it's hard to say the Knicks are going to be better than what they were last year because they were such a good team last year. But I think this is like a good spot for that. Like a good spot for we had the Knicks. I mean, like in our ranges on the last episode, like 1 seed. Like we were like, this is a legit like could be a 1 seed, and I think you can see that again possibly, especially with considering how weak the East is, and you're bringing back like your main guys, plus you're like also adding a deeper bench. The Knicks are definitely scary, and I'm really excited to see Knicks Hawks. Hopefully, we can get another playoff matchup because that would just feed families. I think.
I can't wait to do those ranges again because preseason I picked the Pacers to have the best regular season record in the East. And if the season started in December 15th, then I would have been 100% right because Indiana was like by far the best East team in the regular season and playoffs from that point on. So I can't wait to do those. That'll be in like 2 weeks probably from when this episode comes out. So yeah, that'll be like awesome. I can't wait to do it. Other than that, next episode will be the Philadelphia 76ers. We will see you guys then.